all of you who are with us, try and reduce the volume of your phones and maybe mute your laptop if you're logged in onto your laptop. So that kind of it'll reduce the background noise if you're having right now. So those are little things that we can do. Guys, let me tell you a little story because we should not lose the time. So this goes back probably to 2000 last year, I think. And I'll tell you a little, I think Shalini has already spoken about me, what I do. But then something very close to me is that I graduated from southern part of this country in Chennai. That's where I did my MBA. And last year, there was this whole story that happened in Chennai, which was a major problem around drinking water. So, guys, tell me if you did hear about it. Tell me a yes or a no. The problem was so immense that high-rise societies in Chennai was issued advisories not to waste water. Water would come twice in a day, so on and so forth. And there was a major, major crisis last year. The underground water dried up, and so on and so forth. And while that was happening, so obviously I was reading all the news, and not because of reading that news. What also happened was that I took up this challenge to myself that despite me heading a fashion brand or a retail brand, I am not going to buy clothes for 1 year. I do not know how it happened. It was not related to the drinking problem, but I just said that to myself that I'm not going to buy clothes for 1 year. And eventually I started talking about it when I was addressing students, or I spoke about it when I was in my company. Now you will imagine that since I belong to a fashion brand, there were sales that used to happen on our terraces. There would be mall which would be kacha or with slight defects, and we would open it out to our staff. And I would be so tempted because that goes in throwaway price, and I really want to have that. But then, apart from buying my essentials like laundry or some night stuff, I had decided not to buy clothes. And eventually, what happened from after this 1 year, I realized that to own fashion or to stay fashionable, you do not need to have a lot of clothes. You need to have just the right clothes. Now, when I say that, I also want to highlight that I travel every weekend to the most inhospitable situations. I go to villages, I stay in homestays, or even with people who do not have actual homestays. So, wearing comfortable clothes, which are necessarily not t shirt and pajamas, I usually do not do that. Neither do I wear a lot of denim. So I kept to myself a wardrobe which was functional. It was easy to transition from a nice Instagram picture to something that can help me through sleeping through the night anywhere. And I realized that we all just need enough. So while I'm not talking or advocating here not to shop, but probably during this seminar today, we will be addressing a couple of those relevant issues. So guys, type in a yes if you are able to see my screen completely. Screen, okay, great guys. Thank you so much. So, okay, coming back to the next story, which is a little thing. So while I was battling with the Chennai issue, water issue, there was another thing that went on at the Met Gala in 2016. And I was reading about it, I think, just about 2 weeks back when we were thinking about bringing some technology change into our processes. And I was reading about this article that way back in Met Gala 2016, it was the first time ever in the world where they demonstrated how 3D printing can be converted into an actual cloth. So obviously that version was not really fine and refined as we wear our clothes, but then it was a breakthrough technology that was discovered. So again, coming back to telling you that why we are talking about it, let me quickly tell you what all we're going to be talking about, since I have to also take care of the time and it's 3:15 already. Number one, why are we talking about future of fashion? क्यों ज़रूरत है? आज ही क्यों ज़रूरत है? We could have thought about it a year ago. Why do we need to talk about it? Why fashion only and why not allied industries? Like, what is the need? Number one. Number two, what are the lessons that we can learn somewhere from history or our roots or closer home that can help us understand the issue better? All right. And number three, what are the factors that define our future? So when we say the future of fashion, what are the factors that determine that? All right. And number four that we're going to be discussing is that what are the basic trends? Now, obviously, these trends are not sacrosanct. ये एक ultimate list नहीं है. that I can give to you guys. But obviously, it comes from some studies, some experiences, what is happening in the market, what are designers planning, and so on and so forth, right? So before I do that, so obviously, I'm going to also talk about this thing. So you need to tell me a yes or a no. What is happening these days is that, like times before, when probably our parents or our grandparents used to decide, आज हमारा shopping का दिन है, and probably huge shopping used to happen when we were doing the Diwali celebrations or Christmas celebrations or New Year. The family used to go out in the town, buy new clothes, and that was called going for shopping. Now, please listen to my words very carefully. So there is a difference between going for shopping and you are already shopping. The people like us, like I belong to a millennial generation, all of you, we are always shopping. Whether we are looking at someone, some influencer on the Instagram, or we are scrolling through our feed of checking out what Hollywood or Bollywood celebs are wearing, or checking out the feed that comes from small brands or creatives, all the time our eyes, ears are open to shopping, which means that all of that does not necessarily mean that we have to plan to go to shopping. And when shopping is 24/7 with us, then obviously there is a need to be more mindful around it. Do you guys agree or not? So by being mindful, I said कि अगर हर वक्त shopping जाते रहेंगे तो obviously you will deplete yourself of your finances, of the choices. So while I say that you're 24/7 shopping, it means that there's a necessity to be mindful. कि कितना consume करना है, number one. Number two, now you guys would also agree that our fathers or forefathers used to consult pundits in India. And similarly, in abroad, what used to happen was they have these tarot readers and astrology readers and card readers, and people even have shamans, in Peru and South America and places like that, who predict your future. तो उससे क्या होता है, फ्यूचर प्रिडिक्शन हम क्यों करते हैं, लॉट ऑफ यू में से कि लिव इन टुडे, लिव टुडे इज व्हाट यू शुड बी टॉकिंग अबाउट, वी शुड लिव द मोस्ट आउट ऑफ इट. Yes, correct. Why do people invest so much? Why is astrology such a big business? It is because when you predict some possibility in future, what you do is you better prepare yourself to face it, number one. Number two, it does not put you off surprise. So when you are better prepared, you already make your tayari like that. And number two, what comes to you does not come as a surprise. All right. So do you guys agree to that? Now, what happens in fashion is when we are talking about future of fashion, हम ये क्यों discuss कर रहे हैं? It is as simple like a Pandit concept that what we do today is going to be showing in future. So rather get prepared for it. Rather, let's not wait for surprises. Let's not wait that oceans dry up and then we decide that no, our production systems have to be in a manner that consume less water. Or let's prepare today that how technology can be seamlessly merged so that we do not have to undergo dyeing processes for our yarns and they can be done on a 3D system. I hope that you're with me till now. Type in a yes or a no if you are understanding what I am talking about. All right. Okay, great. Okay. I hope that I keep seeing a lot of responses here. All right. So, हमने future की बात करी है, and this is obviously the first slide. And I thought that I will start from a very, very humble T-shirt. And I think the story of T-shirt is something that we've been wearing from our schools to our colleges to, as I'm sitting today. This humble T-shirt is not that humble. Now, let me tell you why. Imagine कि इस टी-शर्ट का cotton seed गुजरात में बनता है, all right? Now that cotton seeds are taken out in huge volumes and transferred from one continent to another. And let's say in one continent, the yarn spinning is happening. Then from that continent, let's say it goes to another continent, maybe a developed or an underdeveloped economy or developing economy like Malaysia, where mass production happens. So some of the major production units are there in India and Tamil Nadu, and then we have lots of them in Malaysia and Southeast Asia and places like that. And then imagine from that continent, it goes back to another continent where digital printing happens. So obviously you must have read t-shirts where it says, I love Bali, I love Goa. It doesn't happen outside the countries, it happens right in your country. It's called basic digital printing. Now imagine that one humble t-shirt which has traveled from continents across consumes so much of resources of this planet, and to just put you off and give you some data, one t-shirt that we all wear consumes 2.5 years of individual capacity of drinking water. So let's say this water that I'm drinking right now, मेरी जितनी full capacity है 2.5 साल इसको पीने की, that much amount of water one t-shirt takes. That's number one. Number two statistics that we should be worried about is 11. Now, I will be talking about landfills a little later because that's one of the important aspects of future of fashion. But imagine that this t-shirt, similar t-shirt, I would say similar fabrics, 11,000 of such pieces end up being in global landfills every hour. Now that data comes from very, very verified sources like global index rates of UN and things like that. 11,000 such pieces every hour, guys. And that is astonishing. Because if we guys, as fashion enthusiasts, as fashion professionals, are not having sensitivity to such data and what to take actions ahead, then it kind of puts questions into what we are studying and what are we responsible for. So that is why we need to talk about future of fashion. I hope I've been very, very clear. But just a quick question coming your way. What can you make out of this picture? It's a very, very simple picture. Let me have some responses. What can you make out of this picture? What is this picture? What are they doing? Let me see a couple of responses quickly. Okay, I hope that the picture is a little blurred, I guess, because of the resolution issue, but I still feel that you're able to gauge what does the picture say. So let me see what people have to say about it. Okay, so Akshat says stitching. Let me have a few more responses and let's be more quick because it's 3:20 and I really want to stick on to time. Okay, some more responses. So there are so many people watching us right now. I really want you to respond. Otherwise, मुझे लगेगा कि मैं अपने आप से ही बातें कर रही हूँ. All right, so Taylor is making clothes. Shivi says stitching, and then someone says garment construction. All right, okay. While a couple of people more respond to this picture, guys, let me tell you, I'm sure that since you guys are pursuing fashion, but let's think about all those who are not. There was this time, probably in the 90s, and I think Shalini is there with us, Miss Swati is there with us, they would agree that even like kids who were not even pursuing fashion, there was this time, jab ye fast fashion aaya nahi tha. There was no Zara, there was no lifestyle stores, there were no West Side stores in India. People used to literally go to, if let's say it was Delhi, it was Purani Delhi, or Karol Bagh in Jaipur, it would be Purana Market. People would go there, buy their fabric, enthusiastically choose the laces, the buttons, and tell me if I'm wrong. I would specifically need that response from Miss Shalini and Miss Swati. And then we would go to our tailor shop back, explain to him कि मुझे ऐसा ऐसा चाहिए, and then tailor would put in his effort. And that was, guys, one of the most sustainable ways of fashion. One, you're producing a garment on demand, which means that you've thought through that you really need that garment. Number two, you are supporting every supply chain in that order, right from the person who makes your buttons to the one who makes your fabric, to the tailor masters and everyone who is involved in the process. One of the most sustainable form. Obviously, that had its pros and cons, and that is why tailor as a profession is dying today, but we will be talking about it. Coming back to the second part, which is probably one of my favorite parts of today's webinar, is this guy. So life always history teaches us some lesson, and I thought that today when we are talking about future, past ko pehle dekh lete hain. And past mein usually it is said that when you dwell into your past, you realize that either what we did was right, either what we did was wrong. So let me tell you a little about this man. Now, he's called the half-naked fakir by a lot of journalists in England, in US, and in fact, if you just Google up half-naked fakir on Google, there will be so many articles written about Gandhi, his sartorial styles, his commentary, and so on. But I would like to speak about Gandhi in terms of fashion. Now, his fashion journey is clearly divided into three ages. One was the first age when he went to England to study his law. Now, since he was this, obviously, now to everyone's knowledge, I hope you've read a little bit about Gandhi, but even if you haven't, we are not going to judge you, and I will tell you a little detail. So Gandhi belonged to a not so poor family. He was like a middle income generating family. I would not say poor family. He had enough money to go to England and afford his law education thanks to his father, who was in administrative services back then. So anyway, cut the story short. What happens is that he goes to South England to study law, and that's where he sees that there has to be a formal dressing. So whenever you Google up Karamchand Gandhi's images from England, you would always see him in three-piece formal attires that was aligned to the time, the profession that he was pursuing that time. Moreover, the next phase of Gandhi that came when he moved to South Africa to practice his law. Now, he observed critically two things, all right? One was that while there were Indians in South Africa जो कि बहुत disprivileged थे, उनके पास money नहीं था, they were being thrown out, they were treated badly, and there was this another group which was earning well, helping the administrative jobs, helping people in a couple of things, and they were salaried people. So obviously, our MK Gandhi belonged to the privileged community of Indians that was in South Africa. But then one day, what happened is, which is known to everyone, he was kicked off from a restaurant saying that blacks and dogs not allowed. While he was donning his three-piece and he considered himself to be so privileged, he then came to this realization that at the end, my being black decides it all. Whether I have the skill or the money doesn't matter. That's when he realized that I need to pivot my values and my morality and stay simple to my roots that reflect what I am. So his second phase came when he ditched all those Western pieces to a more simpler, modest, a kurta and a sarong or a kurta or a dhoti. That was the second phase. And the third phase comes when he comes back to India and then he travels the length and breadth of India. So there is one thing that he observed is that India was such a beautiful country full of golds and diamonds and glory and artisans, and it was in full glory, and Britishers were making illegal use of that. तो हमारे तब farms में बहुत cotton हुआ करता था, but cotton India से ship होके जाता था England, and then the production mills. That's how Industrial Revolution obviously started coming up. So the mills started to make those fabrics and send it back to India at costly prices that you all must be knowing. I do not have to repeat that history. And then Gandhi decided that, this is something which is unethical because our hands, our weavers, our artisans are the people who should be given due about their due of the value that they produce. And it should not, the value should not be added for the people who are transporting our own things back and giving it us at a much costly price. So what then he propagated was that let's spin our own khadi and wear it. And he started spinning khadi. And that's where he said, you make your own clothes, spin your own yarn, value your own hands, and value handmade. But then he also went ahead and said, you not just wear khadi, you also start ditching all of those clothes that come from Western countries to you, because that burning your clothes will enable that you make your own clothes. बट फिर एक चीज और हुई गांधी जी के साथ, वो ये हुई कि उन्होंने ये ऑब्जर्व किया कि ओवर टाइम इंडिया में कई कम्युनिटीज तो ऐसी हैं who are not even privileged to have clothes, leave alone burning them. So imagine people without clothes. And that's where the third phase of fashion came, which is when Gandhi decided that to be connected to my community, my culture, to what I am, I will be staying like them. That's when the half naked fakir was born, where he ditched everything for a very simplistic loincloth, and that stayed with him throughout the end of the journey. So why I did tell you this whole story is obviously not because I want every one of us to go back to Gandhi's time. That's not the learning we must take. But the learning that we must take is just like हम लोग अपनी bodies. Okay, let me ask you a quick question here because it is like a quick question. Tell me, during lockdown, how many people of you are trying to eat clean or do some kind of dieting? Okay, let me see the chat window. Okay. I can't see the chat window. Okay. So you guys need to tell me a yes or a no if people are trying to eat clean or, practicing some kind of diet. Okay. Gulshin says yes. Jyotna says yes. Shivani says yes. All right. You try to be clean. Lalita says you try to be. That's so interesting. Great. So guys, just like you are making attempts to eat clean, to consume clean, and maybe in a way heal your body, now the lesson from Gandhi is what I believe is should be that why should we all not be fashion dieting? Why should we all not be shopping dieting? And it should not arise out of compulsion that you do not have the money to do it, but it should arise from the very fact that that diet of fashion will lead us to a more mindful, cleaner world. So I think that is one lesson that I want to share from this piece of history that I shared with you. Quickly moving on, because I have 5 minutes to cover. I will be skipping through some of the slides because I feel that these are not so important. But what I'll be doing is post this webinar, I will be sharing this deck with your institute. So you can ask and you can go through it anytime. I will quickly move to the third, which is the most important aspect. And we will spend the next 5 minutes understanding that why and where does the future lies. So the next slide talks about कि क्या कभी fashion हमारे लिए valuable था भी या नहीं, you know, which is a very, very important question to ask. कि, you know, I'm talking about this t-shirt which consumes so much, and then I'm talking about Gandhi ji who was self-satisfied in loincloth. Then why do we talk about fashion? Was it ever good to the planet? So let's put some light into it. So what happened 3 months before was that Corona happened, and unfortunately, the entire planet got gripped in it. All right. And when that started to happen, it also shed a lot of light into some of the systematic problems that was there since years ago in textile industry. Not just in textile, I would say entire apparel and fashion industry. I'll not say ki shoes are, an exclusion or accessories are an inclusion, but I just say fashion industry. And वो loopholes क्या थे? वो loopholes ये थे कि हमारे workers जो कि काफी मेहनत करते हैं but literally sweatshop type of places में काम करते हैं in thanks to these big fashion brands were started to get laid off because there was no demand. And आज तक उन workers को वैसे भी कम value मिलती थी, अब और भी कम मिली because now they were the first ones to be thrown out of the job. That was one. Second was that your entire supply chain got disrupted, which is that let's say I had orders that were pending with the supplier or the guy who finishes it up. I decided as a brand, I'm not going to lift that stock because I do not have demand. So I told my supplier that, hey, I can lift your stock, but reduce your price by 50%. Now that supplier, I may be a big brand, but that supplier is not big enough to have that kind of steep discounts happening. So what happened is Corona exposed all of those loopholes again. And ऐसा नहीं है कि हमें पता नहीं था, ये दोबारा से light में आ गया. All right. Now, these were the two things. Also, what happens is that thanks to this pandemic that has happened, the unemployment rates have gone up so much so that it is being compared to the Great Depression. Obviously, people are having tight budgets and tight pockets. So I will, again, I'm not saying that people will not buy fashion. I will come to it later. But consumer preference, that exactly what he wants, is something that's going to ride on top, which we were not doing. Like, I will give you an example of my company. Usually this time around, and for a lot of companies, this is the time when you make maximum revenue. This and probably the festive time. Why? Because summer is the time when people go out for holidays. They buy beachwear, they buy dresses, they buy flowy stuff, they buy ribbons. And that's where fall summer, peak summer drops come into picture for the brands, right? I hope you are with me and you're understanding the whole context. But now people are looking at more reliable preferences around what they buy, which is more longer lasting. ताकि उन्हें बार-बार money खर्च ना करना पड़े. That's also one of the things. Also, what is another global trend that's coming up, according to KPMG, is that fashion is probably going to dip by 30% from its existing revenues over a period of next 2-3 years. The situation is worrisome, but excuse me because my official mail is also popping up in between. All right. So that's happening, and that's a worrying global trend. But let's move to the next slide, that what does future actually hold for us? Now, this is one of the key slides, and I hope that I'm able to do some justice to it. Number one is whether you are a fashion enthusiast, you plan to start your own boutique, you plan to join a company, if you plan to join, let's say, a bigger fashion brand like H&M or Zara or a Forever 21, I think these are few key things that should help you make that decision. All right. Number one is customer engagement. And I want to quote three examples to drive home this point, because I think examples से हम लोग ज़्यादा easily समझ पाएंगे. Number one example, let me see the chat box running. Have you guys heard of this designer called Torani? Okay, I want to see a yes or a no. If you have not heard, feel free to put a no. If you have heard about him, let's put a yes to it. All right, let's see the chat box moving. Okay, and next I want to talk about is this particular small brand. It's called Nomad. All right, have you guys heard about Nomad? Let's just say yes about that. All right, so giving you three examples. So Torani is a designer based in Delhi. He is from the Sindhi community. And what he does was, if you have a look at his official Instagram, it's called the Torani Official. He decided that Sindhi as a community has so much of artistic value to deliver that it needs to be told as a right story and right medium. So what he decided was that more than his products, he started to talk about Sindhi history, how women used to weave, what were the prints, वो क्या खाना खाते थे, उस खाने से designs कैसे inspire होते थे, and slowly, when he did his first photo shoot, it was called Chhat. And guys, let me tell you, because one of my team member assisted him on the photo shoot. His photo shoot used to cost him just about 8,000 rupees, end to end. And I'm talking about even involving models. And you would ask me how. For that, you should look up on his Instagram channel and just scroll down, because that chat goes right down his Instagram. But have a look at that. So what he did was that he brought back that memories of community which used to work on the chat. Women used to make pickles, someone used to make a lace, and that's where he did his shoot. And then he started to talk about his different pieces. So there was this whole story that went into Torani. What is he doing? Obviously, during Corona, again, he was facing a lot of problems. He also had to let go of a lot of his employees. Just months before all of this Corona happened, he had opened one of the most fanciest store I was invited to at GK in New Delhi, and all of that had to see, a shut shop. But obviously, I think he is also reviving. Another example that I did speak about is a Nomad, a very, very small brand with just 7 employees. And what they do is they make very beautiful garments out of chanderi, out of fine malmal, kala cotton, and so on, so forth. It's run by a beautiful a girl called Harshita. And what she did was that obviously she doesn't have a lot of money to spend on marketing and engagement. During Corona, she started a new series which is called a 21 series from lockdown. And what used to happen is that each of these 21 days, she would make a little piece by hand and teach you a tutorial that how that little embellishment or a flower that you see on the garments can be made by you. So which added more value to the people, because they started to understand कि उस एक छोटे से पीस को बनाने में कितनी मेहनत लगती है, and that is why that garment costs, let's say, an X amount or a Y amount. And then third, obviously, is Vajor. While we are just one of the small examples amongst many others who believe in customer engagement, we propagate a bohemian-free lifestyle. We never say buy our dresses, buy our jumpsuits. We say a bohemian person is one who's free, who loves nature, who loves pets. Our home decor pieces, our dresses makes you live that life. And if you see, all our branding, marketing, storytelling is just around that bohemian lifestyle. So these are ways of customer engagement. And one of the things that future holds for us and you guys as fashion professionals is how easily can you create a story that attaches to your customer. No more are people interested to buy clothes from Amazon, West Side, but if you are even having a small shop on Instagram, and if your story is perfect, you will see your revenues going up. Number one. Number two, which is very, very important, is responsible fashion goes beyond small things like I am using 100% organic cotton. Doesn't matter. Are you paying fair to your karigars? Are you taking care of the environment? How much are you polluting in your production process? Are your studios well equipped with toilets and other sanitation? Is all what now goes in responsible fashion. So when you choose to work for a brand, make sure that you feel proud that I work for a responsible fashion brand. And for all those who wish to create one, make sure that you're not just using, let's say, a hemp or a bamboo, but creating a whole circle of responsibility. Because once that is known in the market, people will automatically come to you. The third and a very simple logic that future holds is, आज तक चाहे कोई भी fashion brand हो, whether it's H&M or a Zara, the trend is that everyone knows how to manage sales. Everyone knows कि financial performance कैसे track की जाती है. But till date, there were no specific systems which can track your social impact. कि मैं society को कितना दे रहा हूँ, मैं society से कितना ले रहा हूँ as a brand. But now we have these UN and OECD principles, which each brand and each boutique or each small player can also adopt to some extent and check that, hey, even if I'm a small brand, I am a 5 tick on UN sustainability principles. It's a very easy way to get into compliances and say that you are a responsible fashion brand or a company. Number 4 is profit, balance between profit and purpose. I think it's almost what I have said in the first 3 points, that profit should not be the only criteria. The purpose should be matched with profit, and automatically that sees a lot of balance. And the last one is stakeholder capitalism. तो जब हम कैपिटलिस्ट इकोनॉमी की बात करते हैं, वो ये होता है कि जो बिजनेसमैन है उसको कितना प्रॉफिट आ रहा है, वो उससे मतलब रखता है. Now when we talk about stakeholder, it means that each stakeholder which lets you make that which lets you wear that white t-shirt that I shared with you in the beginning is gaining something. So let's say अगर मैं एक मिल में वर्क करूं तो मुझे भी अच्छा रिटर्न मिल रहा है, मुझे अच्छी सैलरी मिल रही है. Let's say if I am the designer, I am paid the right amount, my designs are ethical, they are not copied anywhere. Let's say if I am an employee, I am paid on time, I'm made to work in a hygienic situation. And let's say if I'm the owner, I also make business sense out of it. So that's called stakeholder capitalism. Type in a yes or a no if all of this makes sense to you. Even if it doesn't, I am okay to do that, hear that. All right, so Ms. Swati said Higgs index. All right. So I've tried to make it simple. Yes, I hope that was easier. So these 5 guys, this was to me one of the heart of what I wanted to speak to you. I have 2 more minutes, maybe 3 minutes before I can start taking question and answers. I will quickly also take you to a couple of slides. So I had put up this slides which talks about the UN goals. We can go through it later. But let's talk about this. I think this is also one of the trends. We have already spoken about the kind of landfills that happen. I think almost all of us who are in the fashion industry know for a fact कि 70% of jitna fashion ka consumables banta hai, that goes into landfills every year. For US, the percentage is humongous, which means that probably there are times where a brand makes stuff and 30% बिकता भी नहीं है और landfills में चला जाता है. Now imagine that as a situation. So we need to let go of this concept, which is take, make, and dispose. And we need to remember, and I'll be talking about that towards the, in my last part, which is for which I have 2 minutes, that how should we look at trends and what are trends looking, so that ये take, make, dispose का system थोड़ा कम हो पाए. I hope I'm making sense here. So quickly moving on to one of the last questions. What do you make out of the slide? Obviously, please don't type in Kareena Kapoor. We all know that she is Kareena Kapoor, but I need to know that what are you understanding from this particular picture? All right, let me see a few answers. Quickly, let's do this quickly. Otherwise, I have Miss Shalini and she'll be like, you exceeded your time. All right, so Jyotna says royalty. Shivani says mother's outfit. Let's have some more responses. Arya says traditional. Jasmine says royal clothing. Guys, let's be a little more creative. You all are fashion professionals. Just think a little more deeper. You are right on your track. Just think a little more deeper. Okay, royal and ground to traditional attire. Okay, think. Just try and relate. I'll give you a little hint. Okay, hint is कि जब ये wedding pictures आई थी, so it was a lot publicized. Why? Because no, that is your hint. Okay, so that's the hint. Traditional culture, religion. Okay, while all of that goes, let me spill the beans for you. So this particular picture became iconic because Kareena Kapoor wore the bridal lehenga of Sharmila ji. who you can see on the right hand side, and it was her bridal piece. Now, she could have very well afforded one of the most costliest garments, but she chose to, as you all said, stick to the tradition and the values. But she not just upcycled the lehenga, but she also made it look like a glamour statement. I will come back to why I shared the slide. One of the last questions coming your way. What do you make out of this particular image? Let's make a wild guess. What do you make out of this image? Quickly, let's have the answers rolling. And I see a lot of repeated people, but all the people who have not tried to respond so far, let me see you responding this time. What do you make out of this picture? Just, just it's a wild guess. Let's try our hands on it. Fitness and fittings. All right. Okay, some more. Comfort. Okay.
Taking measurements.
Okay, someone says taking measurements. All right. All right. So, guys, this is one of the pictures of a study done in Finland where they have actually put in a project where 3D measurements, which is one of the major challenges of fittings in fashion industry. And I'll just restrict myself to apparel, though it also goes into footwear. If you Google up future of fashion, 30% of content that you go about reading is about 3D technology. Now, I also want to take this opportunity today कि आज हमने जितनी भी बात की है, whether it is Gandhi ji, whether it's that humble t-shirt story, whether it is those 5 things that shape our future, there is nothing new. Internet is full of content. But the whole point is sometimes we get so flooded in that content that we lose our track. And I'll tell you what a lot of companies are doing now. Abhi corona ke wake mein what is happening is markets are opening up, right? Now, when markets are opening up, these brands also want to make up for the lost revenue. So, without thinking, they just want to go back to what they were doing, quickly call the laborers back, quickly open the factories without caring, are the factories hygienic enough? Can I give them more support? Can I give them more financial uh, things, or things like that? So, what is happening is कि short term gain के चक्कर में वो जो हम पूरा content पढ़ते हैं for future of fashion, that is again getting ignored. But anyway, coming back to this picture definitely talks about 3D fittings. Someone said it rightly, that how well and precise you can be, so that once you take out a print of the cloth, it actually fits you like a dream. And that is a reality. And that's what brings me to the last section of our webinar, which is that what's going to be the trends. And I hope that, Ms. Shalini, if we are 2-3 minutes here and there, it won't be a big problem as long as you are with us. So a couple of trends, and I'll quickly go them over. One is mindfulness over material. I think पूरे webinar में हमने mindfulness की ही बात की है. कम शॉपिंग करना इज नॉट शॉपिंग नहीं करना. जब आप डाइट करते हो तो आप खाना बंद नहीं करते, आप अच्छा खाते हो, टाइमली खाते हो. And just like that, mindfulness over material or quantity is so much more important. So whether you are wearing a hemp or a cotton or a polyester does not matter. If you can sustain that polyester garment for, let's say, next 4 years to come, आप खुद कच्चा टाका लगा के उसे रिपेयर कर सकते हो. Your younger sister or sibling can use it. Very well, it's okay to invest in a polyester garment. But if you feel that no, I need to just buy enough to do that, that's number one trend, which is very, very individualistic. It's got nothing to do with brands. It is something we all can practice. Number two is popularity of revival and nostalgia. Whether it is Abu Jani, Sandeep Khosla, whether it's Sabyasachi, Torani, Diaries of Nomad, or for that matter, Shivanand Naresh, or any, even Gucci, which came up with the India drops last year. I think everyone is moving towards revival and nostalgia. Kareena Kapoor was just one of the examples. But the trend is going back to having made those garments that can easily be repaired. There are also a lot of brands like Abu Jani who are opening up designer tailoring services where you can get your old mummy ka lehenga, dadi ki sari, and they can create beautiful putra pieces out of that. So that is something which is a trend for future. So guys, for all those who are possibly planning to open up boutiques, and Shalini ma'am asked me this question, that where does the future of fashion lie? What are the career opportunities? Think about opening a bespoke revival fashion shop. That's one of the trends that's going to catch up, because hum revival ke naam pe usually we go to our tailor and we make a suit out of a sari. That's about it. But the next level of revival will be going back to the artisans, using the same material and bringing that whole piece back to reality. So that's where one of the trends lies. Number 3 and 4, pretty much I have spoken about it, tech and fashion to collide in the most weirdest manners. So Milan 2016 showed us that how you can literally click a model, take a printout of the cloth and wear it. That was the kind of future they predicted. And trust me, guys, we are not far away from it. I think since I also am closely in touch with travel industry, there was this time in India. I think 4 साल पहले या 3 साल पहले Airbnb को कोई नहीं जानता था. People were like, बाहर चलता है, India में नहीं होता. And now everyone knows about Airbnb. Just like this, 3D printing in the next 5 years, 4 years is going to make it big. And all those who are first movers in it will get a lot of advantage. It again goes back to a lot of people who may not be associated with fashion industry, but ho sakta hai there'll be a lot more who will produce technology, machines that will be required to get this particular thing active. Number 5, which is very important, move over from seasonal drops to all season garments, which is something that lasts me through summer. Layers will be something that we have been speaking on for times now, times immemorial. I think that is anywhere there. Number 6, which is very important, is as planet is moving towards blurred gender. No more there is a male, female, and things like that. It doesn't matter. Androgynous fits, something that I can wear, or my partner can wear, or my friend can wear. It is more easy. Shape shifting garments is one of the key trends that we all should be looking at. Number eight is something which is mobile availability, which is very simple. Everything that you can sell on mobile. If you cannot sell it, and if your product is dependent upon a store, it is not a sustainable or eco-friendly product. Whatever you're making, technology should be able to sell it. And the 9th and 10th is how much you have your say in designing your own stuff. So even H&M has opened a section where you can decide your own t-shirt logo, but that goes for bigger brands. You have more smaller brands down the corner, just like our tailor shops, where you can have involvement in design, that I need my fit in a certain manner, and brands are ready to do that. There are a lot of brands who do that already. So I have tried to just jot down a couple of them. There are a lot many slides like how we did, and I would request you guys to go through, since I'm running out of time, since we started about 10 minutes late, I think because of technical issues. So this was something that I wanted to cover, and it's a live case. Vajor was also just a fast moving label, and I'll be very honest about it. But just about last year when I joined, we decided to turn the tables and be very, very vocal on how we are moving towards a responsible journey. And we have literally taken hardcore steps, right from what we do in our beauty to what we do in decor to what we do around our experiences. Then a couple of steps, I think I've also listed हमारा 5 साल का plan, which is very important as a brand for understanding. And हमने कुछ immediate actions लिए, like we segregated our vendors, we had relooked our supply chain, and so on and so forth. One of the important things that I want to share is that we decided कि जब तक, it is just like this quote कि when you put a picture on Facebook or Instagram, you get a gratification. People either criticize you or they appreciate you. We decided that जो भी काम हम कर रहे हैं towards this responsible journey, we're going to be publishing out to the industry and publish a transparency meter for our company. And that was one of the first steps that we took, that let our work speak out, let people bash us, let people appreciate us. That will give us more motivation to keep going with this journey. So I think pretty much that is my bit, and I hope that I have some time for questions, and I hope that you were with me throughout. I've also added my coordinates so you can be in touch with me anytime. So what I will do is that I'll stop sharing the screen. I will, again, as I said that, okay. As I said that we have covered a couple of issues, which is starting from क्यों हम fashion की बात करें, to that humble t-shirt, to what lessons of mindfulness Gandhi teaches us or history teaches us. We then moved on today to discuss that what are the relevant things future should look at, जहाँ पे हमने बात की about ethics in fashion. We also spoke about setting up systems right, following the compliances set out by UN and OECD. We spoke about balancing. We spoke about stakeholder capitalism and so on and so forth. We then moved on to understanding very, very common trends that you all should be looking at. And I think that was pretty much my input. I hope you found it beneficial. But now I am open to some questions. Let them get flowing, and I will be happy to answer them. Okay,
I
Ms.
guess,
Swati said avoid greenwashing. Oh yes, greenwashing is a facade.
I
There are
guess,
multiple layers to it.
Kavya, you have addressed almost issues. Thank you so much for such a wonderful session. You
Thank you, thank you.
creates a
Uh,
sense to
there
be
is,
conscious.
yeah,
Your talk really creates a sense to be conscious choppers, letting the world to be more successful and sustainable, while I believe liberates every individual and allow us to choose the quality over quantity. You have made such a human value enhancement session. Really a remarkable, of course.
thank,
So I guess I take this opportunity to thank on behalf of the School of Design and Art, Poornima
thank you,
University.
thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
And
Thank you.
Shalini, are we taking a few questions right now?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, because I have a question that I can
Yeah,
see which
yeah,
Lalita
yeah.
asked.
Yes, we
And the
can.
question says that since supply and demand is on a vicious cycle, considering the present financial depression, what kind of clothing is going to be more sustainable? Fashion is bleak. Is fashion bleak right now? Lalita, to
Yeah.
answer your question, no, it's not bleak. We are in a tough situation. There are only few sectors that are looking very bright. But as we speak about this, the pandemic is not going to last, but what will last is consumer sentiment. People have lost their power to spend. So obviously, seasonal stuff will be out of trend. Now, when I specifically talk about supply and demand, the supply side is more or less getting back to normal, but the demand is clearly going down. And to make up for that, probably we will have to focus on a couple of things, which is more accessories. As a fashion professional, I can say that there will be a lot more brands that will focus on garments come accessories. So accessories is one big thing that will now shape up, which is also as per the I'm forgetting this 2019 report, which was also shared by one of the research firms, which talks about how accessories is going to be also one of the future defining trends. But I would say that I covered a couple of things like androgynous fashion, all season garments. I think that is one of the things that brands should be looking at. But it's going to take a while, at least for this year, to be things back on normal. But then post that, we are looking at more ethical fashion to come.
Sustainable.
Yeah, I think I've been
Right.
able to answer this to some extent.
Yes.
Um, and Shalini, thank you for
I
all of those kind words. And you guys can reach me out. Also, what I also do is these days on my Instagram, I keep putting 2 or 3 job opportunities. If they are not necessarily from my company, they are from whatever information I gather from my circle. So you can keep having a look at that. But I just want to leave you guys because we have a minute before 4 that to predict future of fashion or to say that हम ethical बन जाएंगे हम sustainable बन जाएंगे is one of the most difficult things, people, let me tell you. It is not easy because बहुत easy होता है जब when your bank bleeds and a businessman says why am I doing that business. It takes a lot to come to that conclusion that even when I may not be making profits, the other aspects are getting fulfilled, and eventually I will reach a point where my numbers will start to rise. Is a tough call. So I'll always say to you guys, whether you join a fashion brand or you plan to start your own brand, always plan long term. Have a 2 year or a 3 year plan in place, because as a leader, you will have to take those hard calls from the beginning that this is what will my product be, this is what my story is going to be, which is not just restricted to making a good garment. So I think that's what was the last message that I wanted to give you guys. And thank you so much for having me and everyone here.